Hi, this is Sung. I'm the Principal and Director of Sky Academy, and in this episode what I would like to do is go through some vocabulary that you will need to do plane geometry, at least for the 2-unit course. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of words that you need to know, and this is to help us with our communication in doing geometry-based problems. Okay, so you need to be able to read and understand what a problem is telling you, and oftentimes they will use words from this list, and you need to be able to use these words from this list to help us to provide a solution for the questions that are being asked. Okay, so let's just go through a couple of these words. I'm not going to go through all the definitions, but this is enough for you to be able to kind of go, there's a few words I don't know, let me Google them, let me Wolfram Alpha them, let me find out what these words mean. Okay, you can ask your teachers as well. Okay, it's not an exhaustive list, so I just warn you there that it's not exhaustive. In other words, it's not a complete list, but it is a fairly good start. Okay, so let's have a look at some of what these words are, and I will, as we go through it, go through some quick definitions of what they mean. Okay, so if you are a quick note taker, then as I go through some of these definitions, it'll save you looking them up. You can just write those definitions down. Okay, so let's go through the first one. Complementary. Complementary angles are where two angles add up to 90 degrees. Okay, so they might sit on a right angle, and a right angle that's divided up into two angles. That would be complementary, but it just means that they add up to 90 degrees. Supplementary angles, on the other hand, add up to 180 degrees. Adjacent angles are two angles that sit on the same, sit side by side to each other and share the same point and a common arm, and sit on either side of that common arm. So two angles are adjacent if they're next to each other. Okay, parallel lines go in the same direction, and they never meet, they never cross over, and they never will cross over if you extend them. Perpendicular lines cross each other at right angles. So if you've got this side and this line, and then they make an angle of 90 degrees, then you can say that they're perpendicular. Okay, straight angle is basically the angle on a straight line. That angle there, it's two right angles, it's 180 degrees. Okay, a right angle is 90 degrees. Okay, and you can tell because it looks like a corner. So it's kind of like that, that's a right angle there. Okay, an acute angle is less than 90 degrees, bigger than 0. An obtuse angle is bigger than 90 degrees, less than 180. A reflex angle is bigger than 180, less than 360, right? A 360 degrees on the dot is called a revolution. Corresponding angles, co-interior angles, and alternate angles on parallel lines. This is where you kind of deal with parallel lines, and you've got a transversal that cuts through it. So you've got parallel lines and a line that goes through parallel lines, and if on parallel lines you make an F shape, the two angles that make an F shape are what we call corresponding angles. If they make a C shape, these two angles make a C shape. See how they make a C shape? Then we can say that they're co-interior. And if they make a Z shape, then we can say that they're alternate. Okay? I'll go through co-interior, corresponding, and alternate angles in a separate episode. Vertically opposite angles are angles that are opposite each other when two lines cross. Okay? So the exterior angles are the ones outside the angle, outside the shape. Interior angles are the angles inside the shape. Produce means to extend a line or to add to a geometrical question. To construct and produce, they're often the same thing. Equilateral triangle is a triangle where all the sides and all the angles are equal. Isosceles is where two pairs of sides and two pairs of angles are equal. Scalene is where you've got no angles and no sides that are equal, right? A quadrilateral is a four-sided shape, and there's various types of quadrilaterals. There are squares, rectangles, rhombuses, parallelograms, trapeziums or trapezoids. They're the same thing. Kites, arrowheads. They're all the types of quadrilaterals, all the special types of quadrilaterals that you will find, but there are more types of quadrilaterals that you can encounter. A polygon is a many-sided shape, right? And then you'll go through what a five-sided shape is called a pentagon. Hexagon is a six-sided shape. Heptagon is a seven-sided shape. Octagon, nonagon, decagon, etc. But you don't need to know that. You just need to know what a polygon is. And there are convex and concave polygons as well, right? And a concave polygon is where all the interior angles inside the polygon are less than 180 degrees. A convex polygon is where you might have one or more angles that is a reflex angle that is interior to the polygon. Similar and congruent. Similar and congruent. Congruent just means it's the geometrical way of saying exactly equal to. Okay, so a congruent just means exactly equal to, but you don't use the word equal to in geometry. You use the word congruent. Similar means exactly the same shape, but different size. It's either enlarged or reduced. Regular is what we use to describe polygons that have all sides equal and all angles equal. Diagonal is basically any line that joins the corners of a polygon that isn't a side. But I'll go through what a diagonal is a little bit later. A revolution means 360 degrees, and a transversal, we did that before, and it relates to parallel lines. So that was just a really quick run through of all those words. That should be, you know, a fairly good indication of all the words that you need to know, but I won't go so far as to say that it's an exhaustive list, but it's a good list. Okay, so if you've got those words written down and you know what they mean, you know, I take my hat off to you. You'll be set up very nicely for this chapter as we go through the theorems and axioms. But if you haven't, you know, write those words down. I would commend you to understand what those words mean and keep that word list handy so that you can keep adding words to it as you encounter them in geometry. Okay, good. Well, that's all I wanted to cover for this episode, and in the next episode we'll just launch straight into it and we'll look at some theorems and some axioms that will be helpful for you as we do plane geometry. Thank you very much for watching.